Soul Survivor writer. You can find me on Instagram at I'm Linda Orgy.
All right, thank you so much, Linda. Pleasure, as always. So, next to the stage, I met Dionne D. Hunter in North Canton at a Writing Nights event in the pre-COVID world. I couldn't tell you what year it was, but it was before this mess was upon us. And we both performed at one of the events and we connected with each other. And then when I started, the COVID hit and the world shut down, which was a couple years after that, I'm sure. And I started doing this video project online, collecting different voices, and I reached out to Dionne, and Dionne joined in immediately and has been, I believe, in every single one, which is very rare. It might just be you and me. In every single edition, there are like 13 of them now, and became a huge mutual supporters of each other. And my voice, my go-to voice when I had decisions to make on, submissions on anything, Dionne is who I reached out to, became really close. Dear friend of mine, again, coming all the way from North Carolina to be with us tonight, as Linda did. Please welcome to the stage, Dionne D. Hunter.
Yeah, so as Keith said, we've been friends for a good long time, and he left out a couple of things in the story. When I first met him, I don't know if you guys know about Slam, but it's like a competition. But so we were doing something similar to Slam. And when I walked in the room, I see this guy in a cow costume. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then he got up there and went against his opponent and just smashed him. I mean, the poetry was just so dynamic. I'm like, wow, I hope I don't get up against him. And I think I'm pretty good, Man, I don't want to compete against him. And, we've just been friends ever since. He's an excellent human being. And so supportive. So I'm so happy to see him release his spoken word, his first spoken word album. I'm sure there will be many more. And I'm sure there will be a Grammy coming somewhere down the road. So, but I'm Dionne Hunter, and like I said, I am from Charlotte, from Alabama, via Ohio to Charlotte. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook under Dionne D. Hunter. I have a book over there that talks about African history, and it's called I Am a Dahomey Warrior. It's, in my opinion, a breathtaking book that will take you on a journey that you will never forget. It's based on true events. And if you want to learn about African history, have a few tears, have a few laughs, have a few joyous outcries, then it's the book you want to pick up. Today I'm going to take you on a journey. It starts with a little relationship poem. It's called Super Glue. I see you standing there tall and strong, a soldier ready for any battle. Tears? I'm surprised you allow your essence to flow so freely. But covered in its warmth, I feel safe. Your tears easily bind the pieces of my broken heart once strewn all about. Just like a child's discarded jigsaw puzzle. Just an undistinguishable blur of colors. Now a beautiful picture appears, full of depth and breath. I ask, how do you maintain your strength? You answer, hold me tighter. Your masculinity overwhelms me, so strong that I can taste it. Never have I felt so safe. Never again will I feel alone. And I thank you. So,
All right.
Now, this is what I call summertime memory. Tiny blades of grass tickling bare feet. Warm sun beating down on my caramel skin. Sounds of children playing, jumping, laughing, not a care in the world. First one back wins. Sweat drips down my brow, tastes salty on my lips. Laughter grows louder and louder. I yell, I think I found it, a 4-leaf clover. Could it be? Running back fast, I feel I've already won. Adult calls out, game over, Dionne found it. Joy rushes over me. I hope this feeling never ends. The prize, who remembers? And it doesn't matter. I just remember thinking and feeling the grass tickling my feet, the sun beating down on my caramel skin, laughter, silly laughter, kids just being kids, innocent and free. Summertime memory. Yeah. Not long after that memory, I tear up just thinking about it, but not long after that memory, my mother passed away. And this is a poem about her. Mama, may I look into your eyes once more, see your beautiful smile, feel your warm embrace, hear you calling out to me, come here baby, let mama kiss it and make it feel better. And yes, your kisses always made the pain go away. Mama, help me erase from my mind the image of you laying lifeless, no twinkle in your eye. You see, being only a child, I could not comprehend that you were never coming home to me again. I looked inside your final resting place, wondering why you would not wake. The family, they tried to explain, she's going to see God's grace. She's going to take her honored place. God needed another angel by his side. But after a while, I couldn't take anymore and I screamed, I need my mama more than God. So I decided not to worry. I told myself it was just all a bad dream. I'm going to wake up, you just wait and see. And mama, she'll be standing right here beside me. But to my surprise, days turned to weeks and weeks turned to years. And from this nightmare, I could never escape. The ability to share graduation, promotions, marriage, the birth of my children, even the simple act of saying Happy Mother's Day was all stolen away on one terrible, fateful day. Flashback to a silly child's pitiful cries. Mama, please open your eyes. Mama, please don't leave. Mama, if you really ever loved me, don't let this be goodbye. Thank you.
Wow.
I hadn't teared up doing that one. I hadn't done it in a while because I think the last time I teared up, but Mother's Day just passed and I felt like I would do it. This next poem is called Humanity. And it kind of steps forward into my progression as a artist. And I like to attempt to write historic poetry. So, to explain, during the slave trade, it's estimated that more than 15% of the Africans forced aboard ships never saw their final destination. To combat this loss, ship owners took out insurance on their human cargo. The only problem in their eyes is that the insurance only paid out on cargo lost at sea. This caused the ship owners to toss humans overboard that were sick and dying, ensuring that upon landing at port, they would receive some return on their investment. I methodically maneuvered seamlessly under ocean waves. That is, until the shadow of a massive creature drifted over and covered me. Blood-curdling screams escaped the human cargo held in the belly of the beast. I was hypnotized by the sounds that washed over me like a monsoonal wave. I can still hear those cries echoing in my mind even now. My family, all I love, taken away from me. Bodies packed so tight, no room to move, not enough to eat, and even less to drink. Mother Africa, rescue me. Finally, I was able to break free from my troubled trance, and I contemplated the purpose of any entity which could cause so much misery. Bewildered, I surfaced, hoping that the sun's rays on my dorsal fin would warm the now cool blood running through my veins. I basked in the summer heat, oblivious to my surroundings, until snapped back into reality by the sight of a pale human directing whip into dark human's meat. So many times it slashed into dark human's back. Broad, dark shoulders full of mobility crumbled underneath the lash, but simultaneously blossomed into colored palettes of red and pink and white. At that moment, if it was within my power, I would have screamed, but instead I dove down deep, desperate to escape those horrid scenes. Hours passed as I sulked, trying to make sense of the day's escapades, when suddenly dark bodies began to breach the ocean's crest. One, then another, all attached to heavy chains. A man, a woman, and child, thin and sickly, yes, but still alive. Their grisly cries muted by the salt water entering their lungs. Unfortunately for them, the struggles were music to the ears of predators like me. Some of them had already begun to feed. I held back for as long as I could, but ultimately my animalistic nature took hold of my very core, and I began to tenderize dark meat between my giant teeth. And tears that I didn't even know I had began to mix and mingle with blood and seed. I am a creature that many think of as a mindless killing machine. But on that day, after gorging, I lay fat, tired, and disgusted with myself, with only enough energy to wonder, on Judgment Day, how would that ship's crew justify their actions? I was and will forever be totally disheartened by this memory of your so-called humanity. Thank you. This poem actually, I have a singer that normally would sing with me, but she couldn't come from, well, she's actually up in Cleveland, but she couldn't come tonight. So you're going to have to deal with my poor lowly voice.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. But this came about because a lot of times now you hear people say, why can't protesters be like Martin Luther King Jr.? They take his words and they put them on a platter. this is the example of the person you should be. But if you're as old as me or maybe a little bit older, you know that back then they didn't like Martin Luther King. He was an enemy of the state, right? So this poem is called The Good Ole Days. They often ask, can't we go back to the good old days when protesters were like Martin Luther King Jr., peaceful? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? We answer, have you forgotten he was murdered as well? What so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming. Hoses, dogs, batons, beat faces and heads, causing blood to spill. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight? Jail cells moaned for release as they were filled past capacity with black men in three-piece suits. Or the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Bridges blocked on a bloody Sunday, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air. A church firebombed, flames dispatching 4 innocent little black girls off to see heaven's gates. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Volunteer voter registrars shot in their car as peaceful protesters were found dead on the side of a dimly lit road. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Young black men sent to fight and die in war, yet here sharing lunch counters with whites was against the law. Or the land of the free and the home of the brave. Were those really the good old days? Thank you. Now, that piece was written in a similar style to what Keith Allison coined as a gathered poem, using lines that are direct quotes from the slave owner and anti-abolitionist Francis Scott Key. Keith has a similar poem, but in a departure from Keith's original form, and as included in his piece Land of the Free, Home to the Slave, I'm placing my own thoughts alongside of Key's to contrast, as Keith Allison said, the blind patriotism often eagerly bestowed to the national anthem. Thank you. I'll just let it speak for itself. It's called I Can't Breathe. 3 seemingly simple words are changing the course of history and driving protesters into the streets. I can't breathe. I can't breathe has been the final cry of too many of my brothers and sisters. And I can't breathe because their lack of oxygen is either caused by the boot on their neck or the stranglehold that society has on the truth surrounding all of the positive impacts that African Americans have had on all aspects of American history. I can't breathe because popular culture has been lulled into believing that there should be no ill effects from the scars left behind from 400 years of slavery, or by receiving land only to have it stolen and pilfered back in the name of a robbery known as sharecropping. or by the fraud and theft surrounding the freedman's bank, or by living with the results of the Black Code, Jim Crow, redlining, or even terrorism and murder. I can't breathe because I take the time to remember and mourn the innocent lives lost during the race massacres of New Orleans, Camilla, Colfax, Cincinnati, just to name a few. I can't breathe because even after enduring all of those atrocities, blacks have made astonishing bounds that are relegated to the halls of the obscure, while textbooks feign false adoration for 3 or 4 of our kinfolk. I can't breathe because all people need to know the positive influence their forefathers have had on civilization. Why do you believe that we are any different? Where are our statues? And where are our monuments? I can't breathe because while folks proudly fly the Confederate flag, ranting that their history and heritage is so important, they say that blacks should just forget theirs and move on. How can these two mentalities exist on the same timeline, let alone in the same consciousness? I can't breathe because even slave owners received reparations for the loss of their human property, and their heirs still reap the benefits of their ancestors' crimes against humanity. Yet the men and women whose open wounds bled as they helped to build this more perfect union received no payments for services rendered. And the only inheritance set aside for their descendants is intolerance and condemnation. I can't breathe because it's so hard for some to understand that separate but equal only ended 67 years ago. And in truth, separate was never equal. Unjust laws meant to shackle black families into generational deprivation ensured that fact. And I can't breathe because systemic racism is being compared to the behavior of a small criminal minority in an effort to water down the bloodstains left behind by both, even though each has a direct correlation to the other. And I can't breathe because when you attempt to steal the pride and history of an entire population, unwanted repercussions will be had by all. But raise up a community, teaching them of their accomplishments. And like a garden that has been properly fertilized, a great harvest shall be laid at our country's feet, instead of finding a wasteland where no one, not even you, can breathe. Thank you. Do I have time for?
You do? Mm-hmm.
This was a conversation that I wanted to have at the time with a Blue Lives, All Lives Matter supporter, and have had a couple of times since. Off in the distance, you make out many different voices, united, rising, chanting, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You attempt to control your emotions, but the more they chant, the more you lose control. And finally, it's just all too much. And you scream at the crowd, don't you know that all lives matter? Blue lives, they matter? Shocked by your outburst, the crowd quiets until one lone voice tries to explain that throughout history, black lives have been valued for far less than others. She goes on explaining that we've been treated as livestock. Children have been spat upon as they entered newly desegregated schools. Billie Holiday even explained that strange fruit blossomed and hung from trees. We've seen Rodney King videoed, beaten in the streets. Botham Jean executed because he appeared to eat ice cream too dangerously. Breonna Taylor killed in her apartment after waking up from sleep. My question to you is, Black lives matter to who? She continues by stating that police at the end of their shift remove their uniforms. Blacks, however, cannot remove their color, although some have tried by poisoning themselves with bleach. But as Beyonce says, we wake up like this. But she forgot to also mention that some of us fall asleep like this, desperate to assimilate. But preconceived notions cover us from head to toe, like our bodies have been dusted for fingerprints. Our sons fit the description of what you think of as dangerous. Tall with skin that is darker than yours. But we've taught them, if stopped, to keep their hands on the wheel and to always say yes and no, sir. But history has proven that even this is sometimes not enough. The year was 1984, and my uncle was 18 years old, stopped for a traffic violation, taken in alive and returned to us in pine. The story of so many Black lives that did not matter. Her final plea, can't you understand that the only difference between you and me is the color of our skin? You see, if I scrub and scrub, skin does peel, tendons come on display. Can't you see that underneath we're all the same? I scrub and scrub as I pray, please don't kill our sons. I scrub until I hear my ancestors scream, Black lives do matter. Then she pleads, Mr. Officer, next time you stop a young Black male, please treat him with the same respect you won't afford it to your son. Because that young man is someone's child and they want him to come home safe and sound. Reality rushes over you. Hearing all these explanations causes your blinders that once covered your eyes to fall. And you begin running these statements over and over and over. But just as your mind begins to open, your old friend unconscious bias reaches out and tugs at your shoulder, saying, hey, it's not your fault that some lives matter more than others. Thank you. I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to let you guys go. It's called Thanksgiving. I recite this invocation in memory of the ancestors, both known and unknown. Millions of hardships overcome, rivers swollen to the brink with tears, treacherous paths maneuvered with patient, laborious, and thoughtful steps, with only the promise of the survival of your legacy pushing you onward. Thank you. From the shores of the African continent, where the cradle of life was built, and the first kings and queens reigned, thank you. In the name of your heartbreaking travels through the Middle Passage, thank you. And for the blood, sweat, and tears that you spilled on the fields of the Americas, thank you. You, our ancestors, persevered, grasping onto a fortitude which I deem transcendent. You planted seeds that took root and blossomed. Frantically, you clawed at a system that might have otherwise worn down the mighty mightiest of your kindred. Your faithfulness, love, and dignity live on, bounding through limits placed on your bloodline by society. These prayers are an expression of the gratitude for all of the generations that have come before us. Your bravery, knowledge, and love fill our vessels to overflowing and allow our offspring to be bathed in a distinction not of our own making, but an excellence built on the backs and bones of strong-minded men and women. Our heirs thank you and live on with the ability to pour majesty into their own progeny, and on and on and on until the end of all things. And even then, I will show thanks by bowing down on bended knee while raising my hands to the heavens in honor of all you have done and your sacrifices for all eternity and beyond. Thanks must be given. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Please reach out to me on www.DionneDHunter.org. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much. One more time, Dionne D. Hunter and Linda Orgy. Every first Wednesday of the month, right in this exact spot, we have Angry Cow Poetry in the Rialto living room with amazing feature. Like recently, Avery Lamar Pope, who walked in with us back there. Fantastic the other night. Linda and Dionne are going to be back in October to be our features then, making another trip up here. So join us for that. We're going to move to the back room. You can get drinks from Seth. You can get a sandwich from Michael. We've got Paul Bedell playing at 7, and then I'll be releasing some stuff off my new album.